Like, you can't pour into somebody else's cup or pour into anybody at all or anything unless your cup is full, unless you have it. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, Paradoxical Joy. I'm your girl Joy, and today's video is gonna be something a little bit different. I am going to be exposing my mental health. I'm actually pretty excited for this video. I'm like slightly nervous, but not really. I'm basically just going to be talking to you guys about my mental health journey and also some of the major things that I've learned in the most recent months. And yeah, let's just get into it. So basically, I just was kind of like a pretty jovial child, but when I was in middle school, I was diagnosed with ADD, or I guess ADHD, whatever, one of the things or both of the things, and so I started going on medication for it. I don't remember what it's called, my mom doesn't remember what it's called, but I was basically on medication for it for maybe like a year or so while I was in middle school. And it was, ADD also, I guess if you don't know, which you probably do because I feel like it's a common phrase, but attention, I just realized I don't even know what it means. Attention, like you can't pay attention or you struggle to pay attention in class or whatever. I got put on medication for it, like I said, and it really completely changed my personality, my moods, everything. I would take it in the morning before I would go to school, and it would basically be active, or the effects of the medicine would be active from like majority of the day, from when I first left for school and then pretty much through maybe like, early evening. So most of the days for 5 days out of a 7-day week, I was a completely different person. I was really reserved, more closed off, more to myself, and that's not my natural personality. My natural personality, I'm definitely an ambivert. I can be very closed off and like in my own shell, but I also like to be like with people and be jovial and have a good time, especially when I'm at school or work or whatever. So it was very unusual, and I want to give a shout out to my parents for realizing that and realizing that I wasn't okay, even if I didn't know how to articulate that. And so I got taken off that medicine, but I was definitely depressed. I wasn't eating. I didn't have an appetite. I didn't have a personality. I was just like a blob. I was just a blob, and it was just not good. So then after that, I was pretty like, life. And then I started going back to therapy in college because I was struggling with dealing with all the things of college. I started going to therapy maybe my sophomore year, junior year, because we had therapy on our campus, and so it was basically free for us, so I would go. And I have, I was an advocate for therapy. I've always, been an advocate, or maybe not an advocate, but I've always thought therapy was useful. And when I started going, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, it made me an advocate at that point. So it was good for me. It was somewhat helpful because it provided me a perspective that I didn't have before. But now, like, looking back, and even then there was some things that were missing for me because it was mostly like grad students that were doing the therapy, that were like in training, as opposed to people that were full therapists that could really help you with specific needs. And it was a very general program unless you had a more severe diagnosis. And I was depressed my sophomore year of college. I was definitely dealing with depression. I was definitely dealing with some bit of anxiety. And you know that if you're familiar, those things definitely go hand in hand. And so going to the therapy sessions did help, but I was like prescribed or advised to like, have group activities or hang out with more people, which definitely, I can see how that would have helped. But I was kind of deemed as being normal or deemed as being okay. And I, compared to maybe some of the other people that they have been seeing, like maybe someone had schizophrenia or something like that, I probably was okay. But I definitely needed more help than I was given. But it was just something, it was college, and it was what it was, but it was still very helpful. And I did therapy on and off from like my sophomore to actually I don't think I did therapy my senior year. So my sophomore, my junior year of college at various time points, and it was helpful. So after that, when I graduated, so also just to be clear, my dad passed away right before my senior year, and that was like the moment when I was like, I'm not going back to therapy, because I knew that like a therapist would try. First of all, I knew that the type of therapy that I would need, I wouldn't be able to get at my college campus, because I would the type of therapy that I had before wouldn't be helpful in that time period. And because I had experienced therapy, I kind of knew what it would look like just in general, and that wasn't really what I needed at the time. I really just needed to kind of figure some things out for myself in my own way, in my own pace, and I just needed to be. I really just needed to be. And so when I graduated college, I started working full-time. I wanted to find a therapist, and I did a little bit of looking, but I just kind of was like, whatever, and didn't get back to it, also because I couldn't really afford it at the time, especially because by the time I was really looking into it, I ended up losing my job. Wow, this sounds very like after school special, like, is she okay? I'm good, I promise. But yeah, by the time I was looking to really get into it, I actually ended up losing my job, so that was taken off the table immediately. And then I just started a new position like back in February of 2020, and where my job is really good. I get really good benefits and things like that. So because of the pandemic, I ended up looking into therapy around May, and I wasn't planning to look into therapy until like a few more months later down the line, because I wanted to kind of get more settled into my job and just more settled into my finances and things like that. But because of the pandemic, it was just radically changed how things were going, and I was like, well, I have the time now, why not? So I looked into it, and how I looked into it is I went to therapyforblackgirls.com, because after experiencing what I experienced in therapy in college, I realized that I needed a black woman, or at least a black therapist, black woman or man. I wasn't 100% sure, but I knew that I needed a black therapist that could really understand my perspective, especially because a big part of who I am, or maybe some of the things that I go through, they're like black people things. So I needed someone that could really relate to me. So when I went on Therapy for Black Girls, I don't remember exactly how I typed it in, if it was like zip code or whatever, but I basically found some therapists in my area that took my insurance, and I looked at a few of the options, and then literally the one that I picked that I ended up contacting is my current therapist that I literally love. So amazing. Like, I could literally just do a whole video just talking about how much I love my therapist and how amazing she is, and how much she has helped me. And it's just been so amazing, and I just want to take a moment. If you're someone and you're watching this and you've considered doing therapy, I really, really, really recommend it. I really recommend it. It is an investment in you. You might not be able to fully afford traditional therapy, but you might be able to afford maybe like an online therapy or something like that. Whatever you have access to, whatever you can make work, I highly recommend that you do, because even when my therapist wasn't fully, invested when I was in college, or maybe not what I wanted it to be, it was still very helpful to me. So any type of therapy, any type of perspective that is outside of yourself can just be so helpful. So I just highly recommend. I will leave some links down in the description box below of some resources that I recommend for you guys to check out about therapy and just mental health in general. It's so important. Please take care of yourself. Like, you have to take care of your mind. Like, at least take care of your mind, because everything stems from it. Everything that you do, you think, you say, you are. Like, if your mind isn't good, you're not good. So please take care of yourself. So now I've been in therapy for 4 months, and 4 months later, I have learned a lot. I've just learned so much, but I wanted to share kind of like the 3 major things that I've learned with you guys, because I feel like even if you can't afford therapy, I'm hoping maybe to create some videos like this or blog posts, which you can find the blog post link down below in the description box, but just some more mental health things of how can I share, what I learned, so that you guys can learn it too, and hopefully be able to apply it to your situation. So one of the first things that I learned that was really groundbreaking for me was to get rid of the idea of should and supposed to be. So I remember there was this one time when I was in therapy, and I was literally ranting to my therapist about how things should be and how they were supposed to be, and I was just so upset because I was like, my career isn't where I want it to be, and I'm stuck in this pandemic, and I was just like, this is not how it's supposed to be. Everything should be like this. It's not right. Da-da. And she was like, okay, but like who said it was supposed to be like that? Like, who set that standard? And I had to realize that, like, I had to unpack that and realize that it was like, yes, I set the standard for myself, but I was influenced by, you know, what society deems appropriate, or what I see from other people, or, you know, just really getting up in how things should be instead of just appreciating and acknowledging how things are in the moment, and pivoting and adjusting my life to how things actually are. If I sit around being upset and waiting around for how things are supposed to be or should be, I'm gonna be sitting down and waiting for a very long time. It might never even happen, because life just never goes according to any type of plan. And especially these standards that we set for ourselves, especially in our careers, of like, oh, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 or whatever. And those are great goals to have, but there's a difference between having goals that you're actively trying to achieve and killing yourself to try to meet a standard that someone else has set for you, or that you've been or just even killing yourself for a standard that you set for yourself that was maybe unreasonable or even reasonable. You just gotta accept things how they are. Like, the way that I thought 2020 would go, this entire year would go, is just completely different than how it actually went. And I could really sit up in my whole room for weeks just crying and being upset and yelling and screaming about how things should have gone and what I was expected to do. Or I could just accept how things are now and figure out, so I know that I wanted to do all this stuff in 2020. What can I actually still do now? It might not look like how I thought it would, but how can I make things work? Because when you get caught up in the shoulds and supposed to be, you end up spending and wasting your life, or wasting valuable time caught up in being upset about what was supposed to happen, instead of just enjoying the things that are, and making adjustments so that you can still be where you want to be in some way, shape, or form. And it's brought me a lot of peace, a lot of like just peace. Like, I wish there was like another word for peace. Tranquility, maybe, I don't know, but it's just really helped to mellow me out, because I was just so caught up in like this plan and this idea and all these things, and I'm like, life isn't like that. And I knew that you could plan and life would do what it wanted to, but I really needed to kind of skip over that phase where I would get so upset or so caught up in the shoulds and supposed to be's that I was missing out on the beauty of the now and the beauty of what actually is. So that's probably one of the major things that I've learned. And it really is something that, like, I put into everyday practice, and I put it into big and small things. And yeah, this meal that I ordered from DoorDash should have been banging, but you know what? It's not really. But you know what? I do have some bomb seasonings up here in my cabinet. Let me go ahead and doctor this up. This is actually better than what I ordered. Bet. Like, you just gotta figure things out and make it work for you, and make your situation, like, you make your situation, you make your life, not what should be or not the standards of other people. And the more that you realize that, the more that you give yourself more power and control over your mindset, it gives you more power and control over your actual life and what you actually want and what you actually need, as opposed to maybe what you've been told or what you have learned. Whew. This next thing that I learned, this one was rough. This one was real rough. It wasn't cute. It wasn't Instagrammable. It was real rough. And it was forgiving myself. Woo, child. Woo, child. So basically, there was this situation that happened to me in 2018. 2018 was one of the worst years of my life. 2018, my dad passed. So much, literally anything that could have gone wrong basically went wrong. It was just such a terrible year for me. And I was talking to my therapist about a situation that had happened with some good friends of mine, and we ended up having a falling out. And you know, it's obvious, it's 2020 now, so it's been about 2 years since that happened. And I was just telling her about the situation, about how I had to forgive people and yada yada yada, and she was like, "You've forgiven everybody in this situation but yourself." And I literally was like, "No, I mean, like, yeah, I might have taken some time, but I forgave myself." And she was like, "Okay, so you forgave yourself for being in that situation?" I was like, "Yeah, like, you know, it took some time, but I forgave myself." And she was like, "Okay, did you forgive yourself for not knowing? For not knowing that the situation was going to turn bad? And I was like, no, but I mean, I saw warning signs. She's like, but did you know it was going to happen? And I'm like, no. She's like, so you literally forgave everybody that did you so dirty in this situation. Every aspect of it, you've analyzed and overanalyzed and triple analyzed and forgiven and forgotten and moved on from all this stuff except for your own self. And it made me realize, like, why, like, I treat people so much better than I treat my own self. And why do I do that? And why is it so much easier for me to forgive people who did me low down, dirty, wrong, girl? Like, they was in the dirt, honey, like some Real Housewives of Atlanta. Nah, not even that. It was just low down and dirty. And, like, you never can win when you, what does Nene say? You never can win when you're dirty, honey. You never can win.
You never can win when you're dirty, honey. You never can win.
Like, it was just low down, dirty. And I literally forgave every aspect of it, but I couldn't fully forgive myself. And that was a crazy realization for someone that has been preaching and talking about self-care and self-love for a minute. I have been like the self-love, self-care police for myself and other people, and to realize that I wasn't even at, yes, I've come a lot further than where I used to be, but I'm not even where I want to be in terms of self-love. That was earth-shattering. Honestly, that was mind-blowing. It was completely out of this world. And I basically fell apart in a way that I haven't fallen apart in a long time. And it made me question so much at one time of, like, I'm someone that has been talking about self-love, self-care for a while. And I'm someone that, you know, has really grown to love myself. But if I can't even show up for myself in my most moments of need, then, like, what is all of this for? You know, I still have work left to be done. And to realize it, because I had this false idea that, you know, one day I'll get to this point, or that I was soon coming to the point where I wasn't going to have to do work on myself. I was going to basically be whole or perfect or as close to perfect or whatever. And it was just an earth-shattering idea that I have so much more work than I anticipated. But then I got over it, and I forgave myself, and I was able to actually move forward and forgive myself for that situation in 2018 of not knowing, but forgive myself for not forgiving myself. Forgive myself for making myself a martyr on behalf of other people. And then not only just forgiving myself, learning from that, but deciding that that was never going to happen again, where I was never going to put myself at risk to lift up other people. Like, you can't pour into somebody else's cup or pour into anybody at all or anything unless your cup is full, unless you have it. And I was operating at that time in 2018, I was operating from a space of being negative. I had nothing to give, and I still was trying to give more and more. And that meant that, like, you know, you have your portion for other people, and then you have your portion for yourself. And that meant that I was pouring so much into other people from, like, I poured all the stuff that I had in the cup for other people. I poured it out, that thing was empty. So I was like, okay, well, people still need more. They still need more from me. So now I'm pouring into other people from the stuff that I should have been pouring into myself. And I was taking away from the self-love, the self-care. I was taking away from the development of me and the protection of me. And it made me very vulnerable to a lot of foolery that that might not have happened if I had made sure that I was a priority. But it's just, I had to learn to, cause I can hold myself accountable, but I had to learn to forgive myself. I just had to learn to just say, Joy, you know what, girl, you didn't know. You didn't know that this was going to happen. You might have seen the signs. You might be this amazing person, but you did not know. You didn't know all the things that were going to happen. And even if you did, yes, you might have put yourself in a situation that wasn't that great, but that's okay. You've learned from it. You move on. I forgive you. I love you. Let's make this thing work. Because at the end of the day, it's you and you. And so you have to learn how to make it work with yourself. And this kind of goes into my next major thing that I learned. And the last thing I'll talk about which is how I handle myself, how I deal with myself. The realization that I hadn't forgiven myself 2 years later was preposterous to me, and so I was like, I need to work on my relationship with me. And one of the things, or some of the things that I was thinking about, is how do I talk to myself? Like, yes, you know, I'm someone who likes to talk out loud. I'm literally talking out loud to technically myself right now. But I like to talk to myself out loud, and, you know, it can be encouraging and uplifting, but how do I talk to myself in my head when I'm not even fully paying attention? Like, what are some of the things that I say to myself? And I realize that I am my worst critic. I realize how disrespectful I am to my own self, and I realize that I say things to myself, and I treat myself, and I do things that I would never do to my worst enemy. I would never do that to anybody else. And it's like, I need to start treating myself better than I treat other people. But you know, we're gonna start with baby steps, so we're gonna say at least as good as I treat the people that I love and hold so dearly. I have got to start showing up for myself in the big ways and in the little ways. In the big ways of, like, you know, not putting myself in certain situations that aren't good for me, but also in the little ways of, when I look in the mirror and I don't see something that I particularly like that day, how am I going to say that to myself? Or maybe when I don't have the energy to do all the things that I wanted to get done, how am I actually talking to myself? And it really radically changed my perspective on me and how I deal. It just made me, like, people I feel like on social media are like, be kind to yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to yourself. And like, yes, that, but for me, I had to take it deeper and get specific. How do you talk to yourself? How do you look at yourself? What are the things, how are you feeling, and what are you saying? And I like this whole concept has allowed me to get to know myself. And also, thanks to Rona, I guess, you know, one of the things is because we're in a pandemic and I'm working from home and all of that, I've had so much more time to really dive into me and really spend quality time with me. It's been really unmatched, and I'm so grateful. But I'm so grateful to therapy for being able to learn these things and being able to provide me with the perspective that I would have not seen if it had not been for that. And that's one of the things I love about therapy, because even for me, someone that's super introspective, super woke or whatever, therapy still provides me with, it's a sounding board. It's a sounding board of some of my own ideas and my thoughts, but it also gives me clarity on things that I've never seen before, and on things that could have been detrimental to me that I thought was good. Like the idea of, you know, one day I'll be whole, one day I'll be good, and realizing that was actually hindering me from being more present. I feel like I've just touched on so much. I'm like trying to stop talking, but I have learned so much, and those are like just the tip of the iceberg. I said icing. Your girl clearly loves her icing, okay? But those are like just the tip of the iceberg of just the amazing things that I've learned in therapy in only like 4 months. So like, I cannot even imagine what kind of video or what I'll be talking to you guys about in the next year. And so I kind of wanted to ask you guys, if you liked this, if you want to hear more about the things that I'm learning, definitely subscribe. Obviously subscribe, put the post notifications on, but also check down in the description box below. If you enjoy this, you'll love my blog. I'm literally always talking about the things that I'm learning, and my blog is basically like an extension of like just my feelings and like a personal journal. And I think it'd be super dope if you guys go check it out and let me know what you think. Let me know if this video was helpful. If you're in therapy, or if you've just been working on some self-development or improvement, comment down below. What are some of the major things that you've learned? How are you going to expose your mental health and your mental journey? Yeah, I just want to hear from you. I want to have a great conversation about mental health and some of the things that you guys have learned in the comments down below. And feel free to follow me on my social medias at Paradoxical Joy. Everything's in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is probably one of my favorite videos that I've ever filmed. This video makes me feel very much like I'm in my purpose of being an advocate, just doing the things that I really want to do and what I feel is my life's purpose. And so any way that I can be of assistance with anyone dealing with their mental health problems by providing resources or maybe some type of advice or whatever, just comment down below, send me a DM, send me an email. I want to talk to you. Let's chat. Like, we just really got to help each other out, fam, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's just people and people, and I guess some of the animals, but it's really just people and people. And we really just got to start looking out for ourselves, but also each other. And I really hope that, you know, whatever state you're watching this video, that this has been helpful, that you're doing good, that you're doing well. And again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, and I will see you guys in the next video.